Hey, Practice Bobsy. This is Dr. D'Angelo Webster here, and I have another great guest to share with you guys today. This is Dr. Joanne Rief, and she has some amazing experience on the business side of dentistry. I'm going to give her a little intro, but then I'll let her introduce herself for more of a better job, I'm sure. Dr. Joanne Rief has been in dentistry a super long time. She's actually started working in and around the dental profession when she was 13 years old, I believe. And now she owns a really thriving, successful practice called Crossroads Dental Arts. She's got associates. She's grown it a lot over the years. Dr. Reif has experience consulting peers, experience lecturing dentists and dental students on practice management and marketing, and is a writer for Dental Economics Magainze. So Joanne, I'll let you give yourself a little bit more of an introduction to the people who are going to be listening, and then we'll get into it on our topic of working on the business, not in the business. And then we're also going to talk about something that Joanne has called the touchstones for patients. Touch points. The touch points. And that's kind of a system, for what I gather, a system for building rapport with your patients to help grow your practice. Okay. So I'll let you have at it. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me. I know we've been back and forth trying to find a date to do this, but I'm really excited because I guess, sort of discovered you on social media, and I was really interested in some of the people that you were interviewing and some of the topics and the things that you were saying and doing. And I'm like, yeah, I think I could share a little bit. Like you just told me, most of your listeners are much younger than I am. But like you said, I started dentistry when I was 13, and I'm not going to be shy, but I am going to tell you that I am 61. So that's a lot of years. And the reason why I started when I was 13 is I was a third generation dentist. So I I went to work for my father when I was 13 after school. I was in junior high at the time. And those were the days where I would hand dip x-rays. So I would come there and they would have all the full mouth series from the whole week, because we didn't have a pano at the time, no Panorex. And I take the little cups and we'd hand dip them, we'd let them dry. And I was like mounting x-rays when I was 13 years old. And then I would stock the rooms with all the paper goods. And then I would go into my father's private office, and I would actually take the 5x7 recall cards. That was the recall system. Then we had an appointment book. We used a pencil, and I would go through the recall cards for the next month. So let's say it was January, I'd take the February recalls, and I would call those patients and take my pencil and put them into the schedule. And that was where I started in dentistry. And I have to say that a lot of the things that I learned from my mother, who became office manager, I think at some point after I worked there, when I was younger, worked there. I did work there, and I'll get to that in a minute, when I was older. But a lot of the things that I learned from my mother and father, I still use to this day. And I feel like I'm like the queen of scheduling, because I learned to build and work a schedule like nobody. And I learned that from my mother back in the day. So I think I'm kind of proud of that, because there's never any holes in my schedule. But anyway, fast forward, I became a dental hygienist. Then I went right to dental school, graduated at University of Maryland in 1986, worked with my father and mother at the time for 18 years as an associate. Got married, had 2 children, commuted a long distance to my father's office. And then 18 years into practice, when we wanted my father to start to think about retirement, we, meaning my siblings and myself, I purchased a small practice near my home, very close to my home. So I wasn't commuting. And that practice was like 7 minutes from my home, 7 minutes from my kids' school. And it was a small practice. I grew that practice. I moved the practice, then expanded it, and took on associates. And that's where I am today. So I've been in this practice now, I think about 17 years. So, yeah, about 17 years.
How would you say, so being a third generation dentist, and a lot of time around your father, obviously, how would you say that your management style is both similar and different from your dad?
Well, the management style is totally different, because back in those days, they did no marketing. You hung your shingle out, and that's what we had. We had a shingle. I have a picture of the shingle. So there was no marketing, and that's part of the management business, whatever type of thing that you're talking about. But again, the scheduling, learning how to schedule, learning how to speak to patients, learning how to get patients to come back for the recalls, all those kinds of things are the things that I'm still utilizing today. The difference, again, not necessarily management wise, but the technology is totally different. My father was taking a lot of managed care back in the day because he wanted me to be busy. So I'm doing the opposite. I'm going out of network with most of the not all, but most of the insurances day by day, as most of us are doing, especially since COVID. So there's similarities and there's differences, probably more differences. When my father comes to my office, it's like, he's clueless, just so much different with the technology. Everything's automated, all the computers. When I worked for my father at the beginning, we didn't even have a computer. And like I said, we had the appointment book and a pencil. We had, I can't remember what it's called. Pegboard, excuse me. We had a pegboard and all that. And then we had one computer. When I left my father in 2005, we still only had one computer at the front desk. That's what we had.
So seeing several transitions happening in dentistry over the years, going from paper and pencil and pegboards to what we have today, a lot of changes in technology. But along the way, there's probably a lot of other, this is the next best thing that ended up not being the next best thing that we never ended up adopting. So when these new technologies and new systems come along, how do you decide, or how do you know when it's time to kind of move on and really upgrade? Like, okay, it's time to get rid of the pegboard. How do you know it's time?
Well, I talked to lots and lots of dentists. I mean, even pre-COVID, but even when COVID happened, there was a lot of younger dentists, and I mean like new practice owners. And I had a lot of their phone numbers for acquaintances, and I would call them to see how they were doing, just to check in and give some advice and whatever. So I'm in touch with a lot of these younger people. So the people that I speak with, if they say, who do you use for your payroll? And they mention someone that they love. So I listen. Then I hear that somebody else mentioned the same person. Then I really listen. When I hear something a third time, I take action, and I will reach out to that company or that person, and I find out more and more about it. But it always seems to be like the third time's the charm for me. And that's typically, or I go to a course or a trade show and I might hear. But again, I will ask other people and get references or find out. But it's really when I hear something a third time is when I'm not a first time adopter. That's for sure. I give it a little time. I don't want to be the last either. I don't want to be the last.
You wait for it to be vetted by some people that you trust, and you listen. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've talked about, like, just among our posts and private conversations, about working on the business, not in the business. For maybe like a younger dentist who don't own a practice yet, how would you define that? And I have one particular memory of an older dentist I was shadowing, very successful practice, and I was still in college. I don't even think I was in dental school yet. And he had several associates, and they were all working. And then I like peeked in his office, and he was just in there at his desk working on something. And I'm not a dentist yet, not even a dental student yet. And I was like, well, he's not even what's he doing in here? And I asked him, I said, hey, everyone else is out working on patients. What are you doing in your office? And he looked at me and he said, I'm making the business work.
Right.
So can you kind of say, from your point of view, what does it mean to work on the business, not in the business?
Well, when you're telling this story, I can see myself in my office doing the exact same thing, maybe using a different expression, like working on the business. Well, first of all, I think you have to kind of think outside the box.
Yeah.
And so I just wrote an article that I wanted to touch on, and it touches on exactly what we're talking about. Yeah. It's called the touch points in dentistry. Yeah, I just got my copy yesterday. Did you get yours from Dental Economics? Okay. So it's a really great article. So I hope everyone enjoys it. But it talks about a lot of the things that we do in our practice. Well, first of all, you have to work on your website. You have to look at your website, and you want to make, because that's the first interaction that people are going to have with you for the most part. They might hear about you, but they're going to go to your website. or they're going to go to Google, read reviews, but then they're going to your website. So you have to have plenty of calls to actions on your website. So for mine, we have a chat, which is really important. We also use Local Med, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with, so patients can book their own appointments. I can tell you, I was totally against Local Med. I said, it will never work. It'll never work. And again, I heard it from multiple people, and they give you a free demo. I think it was a month or 2 months. I don't remember. And I said, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. We have multiple hygienists. They won't know how much time to give. Well, guess what? It works. It's great. So again, we have a chat button where most times people are just saying, like, do you take my insurance? Or how soon can I get in for a veneer consult? Or what do you charge for veneers? Or I have a terrible toothache. So the chat is great to have for that. Then we also have Local Med, so they can book their own appointments. And then we also have a requested appointment. And usually that they're just filling out their personal information and telling a particular time or day that might be good for them, and what they might be interested in. But the main thing is you got to follow up with these people immediately. And this is how I work on my business, because if my staff, if it's during hours, they are responding to all those messages immediately. But if it's after hours, like tonight, or if it's on the weekend, I know these younger dentists don't want to hear this, but that phone at my office is transferred to my personal cell. Yep. And I'm answering it right now when this is over. At least right now, if someone calls the office, it's going to go to my recorder on my phone. So my message. So it doesn't sound like it's a personal message. I kind of make it a little bit professional sounding. Yeah. And that way it'll be a missed call. Even if they don't leave a message, I can call that number back. So I am responding, on the weekends. I've had several weekends where we've had, in fact, last weekend, I had 6 new patients requesting appointments or calling the office looking for a new dentist. And if they requested an appointment, I called them last weekend. This week, we got 6 to 8 new patients in the door already between yesterday, today, tomorrow, or Thursday, from those calls from last weekend, unless they wanted to be put off in February. But I call all those patients back. I have a sheet that I keep at home and at the office, fill out all the information that my staff is going to need to go ahead and pull their benefits the next working day. And I can't tell you how important it is. Now, the other day,
I want to back up that point. So,
sure.
Being a younger dentist too, you said some of these younger dentists might not want to think about these after hours calls. I totally support 100% agree with that. So I didn't buy a practice. I started my practice from scratch when I was 27. And that was a huge thing. And we did it from day one until now. No matter when they call, what day of the week, what time it is, someone's going to pick up the phone. And if the phone doesn't get picked up, you're going to get a call back within like 10 minutes.
I thought, now when I go to sleep, I'm putting it on vibrate. I'm not answering the call in the middle of the night, but I can see the number of who called.
Yep.
And we call them back immediately. It's a game changer.
Yep. And then sometimes they'll even go, I'm sure you'll get this too. They'll go, whoa, I'm surprised someone picked up. Or, oh,
they love it when the dentist calls. And the other thing I do is I call the new patients, even though they're already confirmed. If they're not confirmed, they're going to hear from me. But if they are confirmed, they're still going to get a call from myself or my associate. And we say we just calling to introduce ourselves. We want to make sure they know how to get to the practice, that they filled out their paperwork. Do they have any questions, ahead of time? And, what are they coming in for? And that sort of seals the deal that they're going to show up for their appointment because the doctor called them.
So, and at that point, they've probably talked to your receptionist to schedule, and then they're talking to someone again for a second time in you. It's like, all right, you've talked to 2 people, show up.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So,
is that something that you always did?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not when I worked with my father. I'm talking about since I have.
What I mean.
Yes.
So from day one, when you were on your own, that's something that you did.
Yes. For sure. It's a game changer. It really is. The other thing is, I really, really embrace social media, and that's working on your practice. And I do all my own posting. I've taken lots of branding courses. I've taken courses on Instagram and what to post and when to post. And if you want to check me out, it's at Crossroads Dental Arts between Facebook and Instagram. I mainly post to Instagram, but I'm posting to Facebook at least once a day also.
Why do you like Instagram more?
Well, to be honest with you, I really do both, because I think my people really live on Facebook because of my age. But we want to do a lot of cosmetic procedures. That's what I want. So I think that tends to sometimes be a multiple, age range. So I just feel like the kind of things, unless you're just posting a picture of yourself, a fun photo, or maybe your team, that's what really gets attraction on Facebook. But Instagram, your grid can be sprinkled with reviews. It can be behind the scenes shots. It can be lifestyle shots. It can be quotes, pictures of the doctor or the associate or whatever. So by having your grid, really a little bit of everything sprinkled in, I think you get a lot more people liking and commenting. And Facebook, no one really says anything or comments or really likes anything unless it's a fun picture of the doctor or the team, or, of course, before and after. So that's great to show, as long as they're not bloody. You can sprinkle those in Instagram, and those you get some traction on with Facebook. But I just think the platform of Instagram is kind of where it's at with dentists.
Nice. And
that's what I've been, and then, I'm starting to do reels, and I do stories every day. Now my stories are
pretty cutting edge.
Well, I try. Yeah, I do all my own posting. Nobody in the office is doing it. In fact, today, here's how I worked on my practice. We had a 2-ish hour lunch, and I bought these really cute t-shirts for $7 on Facebook. And it was the smiley face emoji with the heart eyes. And they were $7. I gave them to I have like 13 team members. Everyone got one a week ahead. And I said, as long as your belly's not showing, you can cut them, you can trim them, you can decorate them, and come back Tuesday and we're going to have a photographer here. So I had a photographer there. I got balloons with the smiley faces, and, red balloons and yellow balloons to go with it. And we did a photo, like the whole team on the steps in front of, in my lobby, and with the fun shirts. And then I had props. So then we brought the props out to make it even more fun. And we took photos with the props. And then I had pictures of just the admin team done, myself and my associate done, my hygienist and my front desk team. And they all had props and fun things. And then when he was done, I did some boomerangs with them. And it was so cute. The hygienists were holding big, giant dental mirrors and big toothbrushes. And the front desk team had their headsets on and their jackets, their blazers on top of their shirts. And they had like little smiley faces they were holding up, and coffee mugs. And the dental assistants, we had like the impression guns. I don't know if you've seen other people do this. And we did like the Charlie's Angel shot when they were all back to back. And
if I go on your social media, I'll see all of this, right?
Yeah, it'll be all. Well, I already posted one of the boomerangs.
Okay, cool.
And then my associate and I, we had flowers, because that's my brand, because we're called Crossroads Dental Arts, and I love flowers, and that's very artistic. So we just had some flowers in front of us. So it was, again, that's like, my staff was like, what? And that's working on your practice, because that is going to go on my website. They're going to go on social media. I'm going to print some and put them in the office. The other thing we do, we take any of our cosmetic Invisalign patients, I send them to the same professional photographer, and the patient gets the photos to give us Christmas gifts, and we take them and we put them in 8x10 frames. So all the walls of my office are all the cosmetic and Invisalign patients, which is really cool, because if somebody's interested in veneers, I take them up and down the hallway. I say, this is veneers, and this, So, we do so many things working on my practice. I have what I call a coffee table book with all my before and after shots in there. Also showing fun things that the team has done over the years, team building things. It has some reviews in there, technologies in this coffee table book. And if someone's interested in Invisalign, I open it up to the Invisalign before and afters. So all these things are just some of the things that, I do to work on my practice.
Can you talk about the acknowledging the life cycle events? That was one of your points too.
Yes. So we use Weave. I think I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned that before. We use Weave, the Weave phone system. So Weave is automatically going to send a birthday message to the patient. So that's great. But there's other type of lifestyle things that happen in people's lives. There's marriages, there's anniversaries, anything that we find out about, the birth of a baby, because we, if a patient says, I'm having a grandchild, I'm having a child, we put a little note in our scheduler so we know when that's happening. And we have cards that are branded for different occasions. And of course, sad occasions too. If we hear that someone passed away or a family member, we acknowledge that with a card also. Now we also, if somebody refers a patient to the practice, the new patient that comes in is going to get a branded card thanking them for choosing our office. We know they have other options, but thank you for choosing our practice. And then we also put a personal sentence in there, something we found out about the person when they were in the practice. It could be that, they getting their teeth cleaned because their daughter's getting married next week. So we mentioned a sentence or two about that. But then the person who referred them gets a really nice printed card. Again, everything's branded. And it's going to, right now what we're doing is we at Wegmans is, I don't know if you know that grocery store, a big grocery experience here. We send them a $25 gift card to Wegmans, and that Wegmans is 5 minutes from the office. Okay. And not saying that all our patients are 5 minutes in the office, but it's pretty convenient to the practice.
Yeah, it's a fairly convenient location that most people would have access to.
Another thing we do is an oops card. That was actually not in the article. We have an oops card, which is a $5 Dunkin' Donuts card. Dunkin' Donuts is walking distance from my practice. So if we run more than 10 minutes late, someone from my front desk goes out to the front like they do at Nordstrom. You come out and around to the patient and it'd say, oops, we're running a little bit late. Please have a donut and coffee on us. And we present it to them. Now, we don't think they're going to have enough time to go run to Dunkin' Donuts and come back necessarily, but whenever they, can do it after the appointment or whatever. So that's a really cool thing we did. So I really wanted to talk about something that, again, it was not in my article that talking about something that I did that brought a lot of attention to my practice. Happened about 1.5 years ago, and it brought attention then, and it's still bringing attention. So this was what happened when we were shut down for COVID. I saw on Facebook that someone I knew from my gym, she is a hairstylist. She owns her own hair salon, and her clients couldn't get to her to get their hair colored. So she dressed in full PPE, went outside of her salon, and was selling hair color to her clients. Yeah. So I thought to myself, well, what could I do? I don't want to sell anything. I want to give. I want to give back to my patients and the community. What can I do to give back? So I came up with this idea, and I kind of knew that there were these little retail kits that you could buy in Rite Aid or Walgreens or wherever. And it's actually a plastic dental mirror. It's a scaler, but it's not a very, very sharp scaler, but it's sort of an inexpensive version of a scaler, and a rubber tip, like a handle with a rubber tip. And they sell these, several different companies sell them. Well, I was able to purchase a large quantity of these, and I got really nice tote bags with tissue and branded stickers. And we took some of our swag, our chapsticks and different things we have in the office, our pens, and we made little gift bags. And I was able to get someone that I knew who was in PR. She loved the idea. And I wanted to be outside in front of my office with some of my team members and give these to people who would drive up. But I had to put the word out, which I could do through Weave to my patients, but I wanted to put the word out to the community. So this woman who was in PR, she got me onto, she had one TV station come out and film we did it 2 days. We did a Friday afternoon and a Saturday morning. She had the film crew come out on Friday afternoon, and she even interviewed some of the people who were driving up. Most of those people who came on Friday afternoon knew about it because I sent out an email because I hadn't been on TV yet. Or I had some friends drive up just because I wanted people to be there. So when the TV cameras came. So because of that, and then the next morning I was interviewed from another TV station because of her before we had the patients come in, come up to get we called it Crossroads Cares because my office is Crossroads Dental Art. So we had a name, it's called Crossroads Cares. She got me on 3 TV stations, 2 like publications that are local to our area, and 1 radio station. So in the morning before the second day, I was on TV, and she interviewed me, and I told her how I just wanted to give back to the community because patients couldn't get to the dentist to get their teeth cleaned. Some of them were already due when we shut down. And now here it's another 2 months. Who knows when we're going to open, and who knows when the dentist is going to have time to get you in for your cleaning. So we started at like 11 o'clock. People were going to drive up and get their oral health care kits. So my husband gets there at about 10:30. I was already at the office. I had already been on TV. He said, have you looked out the window? And I said, what are you talking about? And there were dozens and dozens of cars wrapped around the block waiting for these oral health care kits. Well, P.S., many of those people became patients of mine. Some of them are still calling to become patients now because they procrastinated and kept my name a year and a half ago. So this is thinking outside the box. This is working on your practice, not just in your practice.
Yeah, I think that since we've been talking, you've shared like so many creative ideas, and they really are creative. Like, you have to like sit and think about and dedicate time to thinking about ways to grow your practice and ways to grow your business. If you're just working on teeth and then go home and shut your brain off, it's not going to happen. But you're like a busy person. Like, you've got a family, husband, kids. I think your bio said now you're a grandma, part-time nanny.
Yes.
So working in the practice, working on the practice, having a family, having children, being grandma, being nanny. How do you have like a system to help you stay organized with your life and time to actually be able to get all of this done?
Well, my dental school roommate, who's my dear friend, says to me, Joanne, you have 25 hours in your day.
Yeah. What's the secret?
Yeah, you have to be very organized. Yeah. I do keep some lists. I prioritize, but I make sure that everything does get done, and I sleep 8 hours a day. I do sleep. It's not like I'm up all night. I think, I don't go out to lunch. I stay in that hour of lunch. You can get so much done.
Listen, for 2022, it's funny you say that. So 2022, so we're a month in. That was like one of my dedications for the new year is I wasn't going to go out for lunch, or I was going to like actually get stuff done. Right. And it's already changed a lot for me. So it's funny that you say that. Yeah.
Yeah. I have an associate, soon to be another associate part-time, so that I can cut back more, because the management takes a lot of time, but I actually like it. To be honest with you, at my stage of the game, I like the management more than I like the dentistry. Mm-hmm. So I am taking as much as I can of my patients who are going to have the simple dentistry done. I try to give them to my associate. I want her to be busy, busy, busy. She wants to be busy. She has loans. I don't have loans. And then I can pick and choose what, the patients I want to see and what I want to do. That doesn't mean I'm not busy, but I can delegate to some of my team members, and, I can make time. On the weekends, I spend I get up early on the weekends, just like I do during the week. Well, from 6 to 8 or 7 to 9 in the morning, other than going to the gym right after that, I spend quality time working on my practice. I do. I'm not saying everyone has to, but my practice grew from 2019 to 2020. And I wrote an article for Dental Economics. That was my first article. It came out about a year ago. I actually did a little better in 2020 than 2019, despite COVID and despite being off for 2 months. 2021, we just grew 35% over that 2019, 2020, 35%.
What do you think was the biggest influence on that?
I
know there's a lot of things that go into it.
So many.
Maybe a couple.
Well, it's interesting. Okay. My office manager of 13 years did not come back after COVID. Mm-hmm. No notice. She held the keys to the kingdom. It was devastating. But I quickly pivoted. That's my new word for 2022. Actually pivoted. And yeah. I actually found I use Dentrix. Mm-hmm. I would love to use something like Open Dental, but I've already switched from Soft Dent to Dentrix years ago. And at my stage of the game, I'm not changing. So I use Dentrix. So somebody my Shine rep told me that there was a Dentrix trainer that practically lived in the backyard of my practice. Mm-hmm. And I brought her in to train some of the people who were already at my office to become another office manager and to kind of split the duties that that office manager was doing between 3 different people. And to this day, it's been a year and a half. She still comes to my practice at least a day a week. And we give her projects that we don't know how to do, not sure if we're doing it correctly, things that we don't have time to do. And that's been a game changer.
And this is the Dentrix rep?
Yeah, right now she's credentialing my new associate that's coming on board. Yeah, I mean, she'll do all, there's so many things that she knows how to do in Dentrix, or knows it because she's worked in other offices before she was a Dentrix trainer. And
so she's a Dentrix, is this like a service through Dentrix that you get her to come to your office, or do you pay her?
Originally, the first time she came, the first go round, it was through Dentrix. Now I pay her as an outside service. I pay her directly.
Service, and
she works at different practices, and
this influence from and training from her is a big factor of what's helped your practice grow over the last couple of years.
I just felt like, even though I thought my old office manager was God, I thought she, I think she was holding me back to some degree. And
if you had to give an example of a way that maybe you were held back a little bit, what would one thing be?
Well, some of the things she was doing were actually not correct. Okay. Some of the write-offs with like Invisalign, there was just some things that weren't done correctly. She wasn't necessarily, she was posting some credits that really weren't credits. So I have this Dentrix trainer looking at credits for me.
Cleaning up the numbers.
Yeah, all kinds of things. It looked like my AR was really high because some of that was still in my Dentrix. Like we charge, believe it or not, I charge for missed appointments. I know no one believes this, but we charge for missed appointments. And I ran a report recently. No one's going to believe this either. But since, when did we switch to Dentrix? Maybe 2010. We have collected $100,000 in broken appointment fees for people who wanted to come back. Over $100,000. So it looked like all that was an AR. Those, the broken appointment fees. Yeah. Now the Dentrix trainer showed me how to make that bad debt and zero it out, and a pop-up comes up. So if that patient calls, we're going to collect that fee and not let it go unnoticed. So cleaning up tremendous amount of things. I mean, just so many things in the practice, and some of them aren't necessarily Dentrix related. Someone just gave me an idea to take your application if someone wants a job with your practice and putting it into a document that can be put on your website. That's just one little thing. So that's kind of cool. So potential staff members or team members don't have to, fill it out when they come in the office. They can go on your website. Just a million different things. So I think that was part of it. We've gone through, this is what's amazing, because we've gone through a lot of new team members, I should say, excuse me. We've lost a lot. Either I wasn't happy with them, or they just weren't the right fit, weren't the right, in the right seats of the bus. And, with COVID, everyone knows we've had tremendous turnover in certain positions, not the entire office, certain positions. But I think, one thing we just did for 2022, and I know you asked me how we grew so much. I also had more associate time. I had, like, instead of having one associate, I had 1.5. So that helped also. But I just did something really cool for 2022. We had a team meeting the first week of the new year, and I gave everyone a sheet of paper, and it had 4 different questions. What are we really good at? Did I get this from you, this idea?
Maybe.
I saw, so what are we as a team really good at? What are we moderately good at? And what do we need help with? And the 4th question is, what are we going to do to help improve this team, or this office, this practice for this year, to make 2022 our best year ever, and they all say communication. They also, we need to work on communication. So we're working on that. They all wanted a bonus system, because we didn't really have an office bonus system. We've had bits and pieces recently because of some changes in team. So it was really interesting to see what the team wanted and thought that we could benefit in. And I think it's a really good exercise for your listeners to do with their team. So the week after, we had a follow-up meeting, and then another. So we've been basically having team meetings for the past 3 weeks. And So interesting, since we had such a great 2021, I said, I'm still trying to figure out this bonus system because I've used bonus systems before. So we actually, despite all the COVID cancellations in January, which I'm sure everyone's had, and some of the team had COVID. And luckily they didn't get it from each other, all from Christmas and Thanksgiving and all of those things. But also we had some snow. We're in Maryland, and one drop of snow, patients are going to call and cancel. So the schedule has not been as full, or the days as full as we would like. Yeah. We actually increased January 2022 over 2021. So I said to my team, if we could do this every month, I think I'm going to work out a bonus system just based on the same month the year before. I'm going to figure something out, because I don't think anyone's ever talked about that kind of bonus system. But if I was so happy with 2021 and each month is better than 2022, it'd be fantastic.
I like that. I like that a lot.
It's a different thought, actually.
Yeah, just comparing, not just like a goal, this month to the last, but this month of last year, are we doing better?
Right. Because a lot of times, January of one year with weather, things like that, it's going to be similar to the next, a lot of times it's similar, like September. They always call it September. It's always usually the worst month in a dental practice, and been no different in my practice. And even when I worked with my father, it was the same thing. So, but another thing that in my article I wanted to talk about is something else that we do, and it's, hopefully everyone is doing this. Anytime we give multiple injections, we're calling patients to see how they're doing.
The post-op call.
Sure. And we do that. If it's a morning patient, I do it that afternoon or evening, usually by the evening. If it's an afternoon patient, I do it the next day. But this is what I wanted to talk about. What we do as sort of like the next step of that. So if we send a patient, because we don't have specialists in my practice, and by the way, we are like a bread and butter practice other than Invisalign and cosmetics. We don't place implants. We don't do sleep. We don't do any anesthesia, any of that. We don't do it. Just we have plenty of bread and butter dentistry, and we have top oral surgeons next door to us. So a lot of times I don't want to step on their toes, and because they refer to us, they're literally in our same building next door. So if we send a patient for a molar root canal or to the oral surgeon, and we get a letter from that specialist saying we've treated so-and-so, we extracted 4 wisdom teeth, or we placed an implant, what we do is we take those letters and we call those patients, like our post-op calls. We call to see how they did, because the specialist called them, or they were supposed to. Now we're calling them to see how they're doing. And another benefit to doing that is we go and look, do they have an outstanding treatment plan? A lot of times they do. Because it could be if someone came in for their first time with a pericoronitis, you're going to send them maybe to have their wisdom teeth taken out, but you're going to get them back for the initial exam or any of the other work that you found at that first visit. So by getting this letter from them and getting someone at your front desk team to go ahead and call the patients to see how they're doing, you can get them back in for the next stage of their treatment plan without letting them fall through the cracks. So I don't think
you keep the communication looping.
Yes. And it's like, you're not calling too soon or too late because you just got the letter. Because if your team, on Fridays, maybe we have time to do calls, but this way, that they just had this work done. So it's like a post-op call and a follow-up call to the next stage. So I don't think a lot of people are doing that.
I like that. I think that's a good tip. With all the things of, working on your business, all the things that you're doing in your office, not in your operatory, can you talk about the role of like delegating certain tasks to your team? Like, are there certain things that made your life easier to delegate to your team that maybe you were doing before, or are you kind of a do it all yourself person?
Well, unfortunately, I do more than I should, but yes. I'm delegating some of the things I think I talked about that my old office manager was doing. I have delegated to multiple people. So like every single week, either my new office manager or someone at the front desk is, let's say, printing bills. Somebody else is checking outstanding insurance over 30 days. Every single week, we print a report with outstanding insurance over 30 days. I've heard of practices that have 100 pages of outstanding dental insurance. My outstanding dental insurance is less than a page. It's like 14 people. If it gets to be more than a page, I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on here? And we follow up with these insurance companies every single week. I also have printed off a a report that's our AR, everything that's outstanding, not just insurance, but every claim and every patient who owes any money to the practice, which isn't many because we collect everything up front. So when I say we send bills, if we send 2 to 6 a week, it's a lot. And usually they're under $50. But once a month, we're printing off this it's an aging report, and we do it over 0 days. Now, a lot of times I will go through this because I want to go with a fine tooth comb and look at all these. It's probably about 8 pages. I don't do it in one day, but then I go to my office manager and we sit down and we go through. I say, so why aren't we getting a payment from MetLife for this person's Invisalign? And shouldn't it be, you get it every 3 months? And why haven't we gotten it? And this, I found this claim that's batched, and just different little things that you can find if you really look with a fine tooth comb. Now that's something you can delegate, but I feel like I can really do a great job with it. But then again, I meet with my office manager and we go through this together, anything that I highlight that, is a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so things that I delegate. Okay, so like anything with photography, my main dental assistant, she's downloading all the photographs. She'll send me some before and afters. She'll email them to patients that want them. She'll send them to Align for me. She'll send them to an insurance company. So that's all delegated to one person. Today, getting ready for this photo shoot, I delegated some of the props that I had bought them for the most part, but somebody organized it and got it all together and took it downstairs and got the, so different things like that are being delegated. I have an extra dental assistant now, like a rover. So each doctor works with 2 assistants, and we have an extra dental assistant who is helping out with the hygienist. But because the hygiene appointments last an hour typically. So she's really busy 10 minutes before the hour to help, them get their rooms and their instruments done, and, maybe till 10 after the hour, but then she's got extra time. So I've delegated all kinds of tasks to her around the office that she's doing in that time. And anything from, checking the bathrooms and the paper towels and the cups and making the toothbrush bags. And my lead dental assistant's also in charge of working out what supplies we need and what needs to be ordered, we're running low on. So all of that, sometimes I used to do that myself, but again, I'm delegating all that. Some of my dental assistants are expanded functions, so there's a lot of things that they can do versus some of the others. Maryland is very strict with all that. Assistants cannot polish teeth, although House of Delegates just passed that. So that's going to go, to Annapolis to see if that's going to be implemented very soon. Not just polishing teeth, but placing silver diamine fluoride. Assistants are going to be able to place sealants and monitor nitrous oxide, I think, and maybe one other thing.
Expanding their.
Yeah. But again, the problem is the hygiene shortage, and that really has nothing to do with delegation, but
yes,
we're
all aware of the hygienist shortage. Yeah. We're all aware.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a hygienist too. So that's another thing. When I reopened my practice after COVID, I hired a second associate. So we had a full-time and a part-time, but we had a really big backlog of hygiene patients. Mm-hmm. And because I'm a hygienist and I was close to 60, or I think I just turned 60 then. Mm-hmm. I was considered high risk. I said, listen, and I don't have to use a Cavitron all the time. I wasn't worried about the aerosols. I could hand scale like crazy. So I did a tremendous amount of prophies, root planings, debridements. I did a lot when we reopened to get everyone caught up. And I think that really, really jump-started the practice also. And maybe I was able to diagnose a little bit more as far as perio, because I was seeing the patients for an hour or 45 minutes rather than just coming in and, doing a quick exam and diagnosing dentistry too. And then if I had the time, we do a lot of same-day dentistry, a lot. We still do a lot of same-day dentistry. So that I think helped grow the practice this year too. A lot of same-day dentistry. what I would say to the patients, the ADA and the CDC recommend that you get your dentistry done as few visits as possible.
They do.
Put the onus on that. I feel like I'm a little bit all over the place now because we started out.
No, you're perfect.
I'm perfect. I don't know about that. But...
No, this has been a wonderful, perfect interview.
Really?
Okay. One last thing, because I do like to keep these to about half an hour, and we're right about there. We talked a lot about delegating. And just to summarize, we talked about your touch points in dentistry, which to me, again, it's like kind of a systematized way to build rapport with your patient base and keep them connected with your practice. I think that is really the core of what has helped you grow your practice to be as successful as it is. You have these touch points, and it just lets you stay connected with your patients. You talked a lot about delegating, the proper role of delegating, and how that's helped you. Talked about the value of staying organized so you can actually get all this stuff done. With the delegating, is there anything that you see other dentists or have talked to other dentists delegating that you would recommend that they should probably be doing themselves?
Oh, the other way around. I thought you were going to say, well, I built a very strong brand over the last few years. Like I said, I've taken a lot of branding courses and social media. And there's a lot of dentists who just say, I don't have the time. I don't want to, and they want to delegate that. I feel like we have brought in a lot of patients from social media. Mm-hmm. Not like I've heard some younger dentists built their whole, they had their startups and they started from the studs on up, not like that. Cause I was already way past that, but I do feel like working on your brand and really showcasing that on social media has brought some great patients to the practice, or even people who have just like seen me on social media, people I know, they'll say, oh my God, I see what you're doing every day. And who's doing this for you, whatever. Now they're not going to become patients. They have dentists, but when they go to a party or they go out to dinner and someone says, I need a dent, it's your top of mind. And that person maybe didn't get to you from social media, but they got you from someone else who saw you on social media. So again, the other thing we didn't talk about is reviews. Mm-hmm. I was an early adopter with Bird Eye, and I am so high up there with, no one can touch me with the amount of reviews I have because I started kind of early on. And we don't ask patients for reviews. We let Bird Eye handle it. And well worth the money. And we get a ton of patients that say they put in best dentist in my town is Owings Mills. Mm-hmm. And I pop up or whatever. And, patients really do read reviews.
Well, Joanne, I want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on my Practice Biopsy podcast. And I know the content from here is going to help a lot of younger dentists that are listening. And this will be something that, people watch over the next couple of weeks. And this will be something that people look back on even a couple of years from now and get valuable tips from. So I want to thank you.
I wanted to say I am an open book.
Yes.
So anybody, if you allow me to tell anyone, let everyone
what's the best way to people reach out to you? I
help a lot of younger dentists and share ideas and whatever, mentor, whatever.
What's the best way that people can reach out to you?
My email is a little bit on the longer side, but it's Dr. J as in Joanne, B as in boy, R as in Robert at crossroadsdentalarts.com.
Okay. Joanne, thank you so much for spending this evening with me.
Thank you.